Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently doing our final demonstration mission of the Falcon 9 craft that we have here, and we're going to be taking this up to the ISS. The major question that I have right now, and of course we're not going to be docking to the ISS, this is just a demonstration mission, but the major question that I have right now is, what does deorbiting on just monoprop feel like? That is a question I would definitely like the answer to. For now, of course, we're going to head over, and we're going to do this on our second stage. So we'll get our rendezvous done, and we're going to do our braking, I think, on the second stage as well. We might keep around the second stage. I don't yet know. But this is going to be somewhere around here-ish. Of course, we're not circularized, so we can definitely see that there are some issues there. But we can bring this guy on around, and we can do a little bit of radial here to bring that in. Cool. Somewhere around here. 10.5 kilometers, 212.9 meters per second. That seems reasonably fine. So we can definitely dial that in. Let's align to that node. It's going to be about an 8-second burn. And we do still have some fuel left in our second stage here. Now, technically, we could probably do at least a significant portion of our deorbit on this second stage, especially if we were to refuel at the station, but we definitely don't want to do that. So we're just going to come on around here, and we're going to head over to the station and see how this goes. The real questions that I have basically boil down to monoprop performance, right? Just how much delta V do we get out of our monoprop? We don't need all that much, theoretically. Just a couple hundred meters per second. So we'll see what that ends up looking like. We can bring this around 40 seconds, 30, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay. So engine lights up, and we are on our way to the station. Just going to get that last little bit in here. Cool, that'll do. So we'll go to Kilrot, and at this point we can take a look here. 10.5 kilometers, 213.1 meters per second. So that's obviously why I want to do the braking with the second stage, which is not how this works in reality. I want to be clear about that. But let's just warp on over to the apoapsis here. And we're just going to be steadily getting closer to the ISS. And we want to hop into target modes here. Okay, there we go. So where is the station right now? About 27 kilometers out over here. Now, we're still going pretty quickly. I want to, about 200 meters per second. I want to head around over here and do a corrective burn about here or so. So we'll just push that node right together, and we're simultaneously decelerating. Nice and efficient. Okay, so engine shut down, and we're just going to take a look at how we did. 1 kilometer, 137 meters per second. Not bad. Let's warp forward about 2 minutes here, and we'll keep an eye on this. I'm concerned about trying to decelerate with our monoprop here, so that's why I don't want to do it that way. Again, this is not realistic, but it is certainly inspired by the real designs, which is the goal of this series. So we're just going to do a bit more of a corrective burn here, bringing us down to about 116 meters per second. And hopefully, with this being a significantly simpler vehicle, frame rate will be a little bit better, but I don't expect it to be significantly better. The station is the problem, not the vehicle. Right? So we're just going to get into position for a braking burn here. 113.3 meters per second is pretty slow, so we don't need to do that just yet. We're loading in the station currently, and I also opened the map, so yeah, this is going to happen. Okay, there we go. I want to take a look here. 0.0. So technically we're on an intercept course. Okay. So I'm just going to be very gently decelerating us right now, until we hit about 1 kilometer or so. What's our thrust to weight? Currently 0.06, but that's not actually helpful. Okay, so we are going to be hitting 1 kilometer now. Decelerating. Should be okay. We look to be on a reasonable pace here. Yeah, we're overpacing our close-in, so this is good. Gonna take this down to about 5 meters per second, as we have in the past. Cool. Engine shut down. And at this point, we could argue that we jettison our tank, although that could, on this trajectory, impact the station. So we don't necessarily want to do that right now. All I'm going to do is I'm going to close in to, like, within 100 or so meters, and then we're going to do a test return, which is going to end up being all monoprop driven. I want to see just how tedious that's going to be. So we'll find out. For the time being, we're still like 500 meters out here, so let's let this close in for a bit at about 10x speed. So we're about 400 meters out. We just want to get down to about 100, bring it to a complete halt, and then we're ready to leave. That's all we need. We're just proofing this, right? So that's fine. Now, of course, this is 100 meters to this point. And maybe we should say it should be, like, this point, which is the closer point. I mean, we could just full-on dock up to the station. And maybe that's not a terrible concept, actually. So we would need to do a bit of a corrective burn here if we wanted to do that. And the corrective burn would end up looking something kind of like that. Then I would want to bring this around and slow us down considerably. So we'll just position here. We're now heading basically directly at this docking port, although we're at a kind of funky angle. But sure, we can just dock up here. This isn't exactly the correct quote-unquote docking port to dock to, but it's fine. It doesn't actually matter. So we're just going to bring this down a bit. I'm going to be targeting somewhere around 1 meter per second for right now. So we're just decelerating down to 3, down to 2, and 1 meter per second. Okay, now we're going to turn and face target. I'm going to open our shield for our shielded docking port. And we should probably ditch our second stage at some point. The question is, what point is that? I think it's relatively safe to do earlier than this, but maybe around here. And we'll see where that ends up going. It's going slowly enough that it shouldn't really be an issue, all things considered. Okay, so we're going to need to turn on our RCS. Monoprop is our only form of thrust at this point, right? And the question is, what direction is what? So we need to go, like, over this direction. This is actually very, very reactive. Okay, noted. Compared to the shuttle, anyway. I guess that isn't shocking, necessarily. We're going to need to go down a little bit, which is currently this direction. Actually, it's kind of an awkward direction. Noted. Let's just bring this back to being towards target, and we should decelerate a little bit. Okay, so somewhere around here. Decelerating down to around 0.5 meter per second. And our primary issue right now is our rotation, right? So we need to change our rotation here to be around here or so that things make a little bit more sense. Now, we need to go in from our current angling, the down vector, which is this way. We also need to go over in the left vector, which is out this direction. Okay. So we're working on lining up here. We're pretty good on the left vector, I think. The down vector still needs a little bit more. This is looking pretty decent now. So let's just bring that right on in and point at target. I want to make sure that we are controlling from here. It shouldn't matter which of these we're controlling from. They should be exactly the same functionally. But we have a large docking port, and we're heading for the small docking port. So obviously that's not going to work. We should probably bring this to a halt and just be like, yeah, that was a decent dry run, but let's target this docking port instead, which I think is a more quote-unquote correct docking port to be targeting. So now what we need to do is we need to head this direction. Oh, this is so reactive compared to the shuttle. And then, of course, we're going to need to head in the forward vector a bit. Cool. So we're just going to bring this guy right on around until we are basically in position here. Yeah, we're chasing this node quite a lot right now, but that's to be expected. Beautiful. So the RCS works really, really well. Specifically, what direction do we need to go here? This way, I think. Okay. Towards target a bit. Yeah, we've overshot this because I was a little confused about what direction was what. But there we go. We need to head out over this way a little bit. And that was just because we had such a considerable turn there, right? That was a 90-degree angle, and my vector composition in my head wasn't quite there for it. So that's absolutely fine for now. We need to bring this guy up to about here or so. Let's head in towards target a bit. Broadly, this is looking decent. I think a little bit further out to the left here yet, but we're pretty close. Maybe a little bit in the down vector here, which in this case would be this way. But overall, this is very, very reactive, and it feels really, really good to fly. We just need to get used to the way the vectors work, but that's absolutely okay. We need to go a bit up here. Otherwise, we're going to have a docking issue. But we should... There we go. We're docked up. Beautiful. So a test docking, and that works absolutely fine. Now we're going to test heading home. All we need to do here is a quick test. So that'll be fine. Now, as far as this guy goes, I don't think that's actually going to impact anything, but we'll see. Okay, so we need to, of course, back away from the station. RCS can be on. And away from the station we go. It is definitely very reactive compared to the shuttle. No doubt about that. That said, almost everything would be reactive compared to the shuttle. And we can see we burned 20 monoprop with those maneuvers. That's not a lot of monoprop. So let's head over to orbital retrograde and see if that's a safe direction to quote-unquote burn in. Now, we can definitely utilize our Separatrons here. These are our launch escape system and are really only supposed to be utilized for the launch escape. We could use them to help us deorbit. This is not a safe direction to burn, so we're just going to warp here for a bit until we're clear. That's pretty clear. And RCS on. And let's see what this ends up looking like. We need to go this direction. Okay, so we can see that our periapsis height is not changing by a huge amount here. Our apoapsis height isn't either. This is going to be a slow burn. No doubt about that. We can fire up our Separatrons to help with this burn. But this is certainly going to be a lengthy one. I don't want to physics warp while in proximity to the station, but we are going to pick up a lot of relative speed to the station here. So this is a functional system, I think. It's just a slow one. We can definitely boost it with the Separatrons. Like... What? Why did it detach that instead of firing the Separatrons? Did I have those in the order wrong? I may have. I intended to fire the Separatrons there. How much monoprop do we have in this? 30? I doubt that'll be sufficient, but sure. That was a mistake on my part, not a problem with the actual ship. Okay, let's fire those Separatrons. They burn for a while, don't they? They're also fairly loud. And we'll burn what monoprop we can here. The question is, are we going to have to get out and push because of that? All of our monoprop was on that vehicle, right? And we have no way to reattach to it, so it is what it is. But that's definitely going to burn us out of monoprop reasonably quickly. But we'll see how much this actually ends up being. We do still have some monoprop on here. We can get out and push if need be, and we'll see what that ends up looking like. But again, this is a me problem, not a ship problem. Just waiting at this point for the station to unload so that we can physics warp. We've only burned 6 monoprop here. So we may actually have enough monoprop in the capsule to do this. Station is unloading now, and there it goes. Okay, so I'm now going to physics warp, and we can see the monoprop is burning quite a lot faster. We've burned about half of it. Okay, so not enough monoprop in the capsule itself. That is good information to know, to be honest. That the monoprop in the capsule itself, plus the Separatrons, aren't enough to return us, but it's close. It's actually quite close. 100 kilometers there. So I'm going to have Bill EVA, and he's going to get out and push. And he's just going to hop up over here. And he's going to use some EVA propellant. Just like so. Beautiful. So we are pushing this with our EVA propellant, and we just kind of have to sit here for right now. We could physics warp this, and we probably want to get back in when our EVA propellant is somewhere around 2, or actually probably around 1 or so. Even like 0.5. Okay, coming out of physics warp here, and we're at about 1. Looks decent. 0.7, 0.6, and 0.5. Okay, so let's get back in now, and we're just going to see where we're at this point. 97. So that did move us a couple of kilometers in the periapsis, but it wasn't a lot of kilometers. We can of course EVA, and then we have new EVA monoprop, right? So we have infinite monoprop in that regard. That did drop us a couple of kilometers, but it is going to be pretty tedious here. We need to move down a little bit and then sit about here. Okay. And we can physics warp that push. We just need to get this down low enough. Like, I don't know, 30 kilometers or so. That would be pretty low. To be clear, this is all caused by my mistake, not by anything else. So I think what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to make you sit through the entire pushing exercise here. We could send up a rescue flight. That is an option, but I'm not going to do that. So we're just going to push this back out of orbit here. I'm going to call this a successful flight, but we should definitely be aware of the order of operations here with the separation and the Separatrons. Really, we're not going to be using these in a launch abort situation in all actuality. And yeah, we can see that dropped us about 7 kilometers. Okay, that's not too bad, all things considered. I'm going to keep doing that, and I will be back as soon as we've got this down somewhere semi-reasonable. See you guys in a moment. Okay, so here we are after a number of pushes, and we are in a reasonable re-entry here, about 20 kilometers. So I think we'll accept this, and we'll just bring this on in. Now, as I said, this is not a failing of our Falcon 9 at all, nor is it a failing of the Dragon capsule. It's a failing of me for not checking my staging. That's entirely my own fault. There's no way around that. And obviously our electric charge is lower than it should be at this time because we shouldn't jettison our trunk section until we're about to re-enter. So that's the way that that's going to end up working in future flights. But I think that we've successfully proved this, assuming we survive this re-entry just fine, which we should. I do want to make sure that our drogues and our mains are separate. So we have a little bit of staging to fix here. But beyond that, I think this is very solid. So we're just going to head on in. In theory, our heat shield should be absolutely fine to protect us. At these speeds, we're coming in at a higher speed than we have in the previous tests, with a much higher apoapsis. So at these speeds, we might see some issues with our thruster blocks and our Separatrons. That's what we're really interested in finding out here. But we're slowing down reasonably quickly. 1.7, 1.6, 1.4, 1 kilometer per second. Yeah, that's a very clean re-entry. No problem whatsoever here. Drogue's out. And we're completely safe at this point. So it all looks good. We don't need to have our capsule lights on necessarily. There we go. And main's out. Yeah, all looks fine. So we did have that pushing issue. Again, that all boils down to staging and me accidentally staging, right? That's not really a problem with the ship. We would have had plenty of monoprop to get that done. And the monoprop, I think, is fast enough. It's not hugely quick, but it is fast enough. The Separatrons get us most of the way there. So that's, I think, absolutely great. That's definitely a solid proof of concept, as far as I'm concerned. Was that a flawless flight? No. But it was pretty close. So we don't want to be physics warping when we actually impact here. There we go. Once again, we don't lose our heat shield, so I think that's pretty reproducible. Okay, let's recover that one. And that is, I think, the final development flight. Now, I do want to address those staging issues before we do anything else. And I do also want to start working on our payload for the next flight. We'll have to take a look at what that ends up being. I'm not sure yet, but I'd have to look at the list. We don't get a payment for that flight. That was still a development flight. And at this point, all we need to do is fix those staging issues. So we want it to be in the way that I intend to normally use this, right? The normal usage operations. Now, normally those Separatrons would be part of a launch escape system. I'm not convinced that those Separatrons will actually outperform our Falcon 9, so I'm not sure it would actually function in that regard. But let's open up our Falcon 9 here, and I'm intending currently to use those as deorbiters to at least get us most of the way so that we don't have to use monoprop for that. So that'll be the idea, and if that's the case, then we should always be firing the Separatrons before firing this decoupler. I also want to make sure, that's the engine plate there, that engine plate will never actually get utilized. So just put that up there, and I want to make sure that our drogues are separate from our mains. Just like that. Okay, that should be it. The Falcon 9 should now be relatively operational. I'm not happy with the jankiness of these landing legs. Certainly. We might be able to dial this back using cubic octagonal struts instead. I kind of want to do that. This isn't really going to affect any of the performance of the rocket. So this shouldn't be any major issues there. I just want to have these cubic octagonal struts be much smaller, much less obtrusive, right? And then we can just bring this down to be, there we go. No. This actually might make the rocket perform slightly better. These might be a little lighter. I'm not sure what the overall weight delta will be. It'll probably be negligible, to be honest. But let's go into ground here, grab our LT2 landing struts, and then we would just deposit these about here, but I think I want to bring this... No. Stop it. I think I want to bring this down slightly further. I want to grab this cubic octagonal strut here. I guess this one works. Okay. Nope. No. There we go. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, so something along the lines of this. Is it perfect in terms of looks? No, it is not, but it will do for now. Okay, it is about time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we are going to launch our first operational flight of our Falcon 9. And I know that we technically haven't had any incident-free flights yet, but I am confident in the system. What I'm not confident in is my ability to execute it. That'll come with practice, and I'm not too concerned about that one. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Kentogan, Ali Lee, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12UK, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time. I pivoted the camera there at the end because I was just like, that sunset is kind of beautiful, actually. See you all next time.